Okay, it's 7 o'clock, and I'll call the select board meeting of Tuesday, August 24th to order. And the first item is approval of the agenda. I move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. You'll note that we're deleting item 13, the FY22 year-to-date budget reports. We're not ready yet. Is there anything else anybody would like to do to amend the posted agenda? Okay, seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Just of notice is a proclamation, select board proclamation on the 20th anniversary of September 11th that was sponsored by the American Legion. A Bridge and Rail project dedication proclamation for Lazarus Park that we read at the ceremony this past Saturday. Kathleen's note about bidding insurance and taking a pass this year. I would say that that is a very common thing. It's very time consuming to go through all that with all the insurance agents. And doing it every year isn't always worth the opportunity cost of other things you can be doing. And so those are items of note for those of you out in the listening audience too. Is there anything else anybody would like to comment on in there?
I'll have to abstain from the minutes. I was not there last time.
Okay, understood. So we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, and you're okay, Les, the
Yes.
minutes, okay. Next is citizen comments. Chris, is there anybody on that has their hand raised?
The only member of the Zoom audience at the moment is Tom, so unless he has something to say, I think we're okay.
Okay. Next then, we're going to go on to, if you could bring, hey, is there anything that you would have that,
I have one thing in citizen comments, but the rest is on the agenda.
okay, so we're just getting ready to go past citizen comments, so go ahead.
Okay.
Please come up. Thank you.
Hi. Is it okay to be
Please.
on there?
Are you back?
Hello, friends. So as you know, I have been convening the Middlebury Homelessness Task Force for the month of July, and we agreed to continue meeting going into the fall on the second Thursday of the month, still on Zoom at 1 o'clock. And our three priority projects, I think I explained to you before, but one is a resource card. The other is a welcome center with the public bathroom. And the third is just watching for zoning regulations for density housing, where social service agencies could have a presence in those housing. So if we call it affinity housing, so we're looking for that. And I think I reported on that earlier. So I'm here just to see where you're at with regard to public bathroom possibility, welcome center possibility. I know that the Bourdon Insurance Building was being appraised, and I was curious about where you are in the appraisal process of that property, what your thoughts are about that as a potential location for a public bathroom welcome center. And I know that when I was attending select board, on the select board in an interim capacity, that there was a discussion about not wanting to surrender retail space, you know, for something like that. So I'm aware of that, and I've reflected that to the homelessness task force. That said, you know, it seems like a great location and a great need. So another thing I've been doing is stocking the kiosk display that's over by Cannon Park near Frog Hollow Bikes. I don't know if you've had a look at it, but it's got a transportation focus. So it has all the messaging about your transportation options in Middlebury, and it's kind of functioned as a welcome center, and I stock it with other brochures because I was just filling it out to make it look good. So I'll put state park brochures in there and Vermont state map, and people are grabbing the stuff. So, I mean, I'm always restocking that, which tells me that there are a lot of visitors, you know, coming through that are looking for information after 5 o'clock, you know, like when you can normally get some of that in the town office or other locations. And I'm just reporting that to you as what I observe, you know, as yet another piece of data, maybe anecdotal, you know, like about the need for some kind of walk-in, especially during the dinner hour, like 5 to 9 o'clock, you know, like when you have visitors after a lot of the retour stores have closed, but there's still a lot of curiosity and interest in what's available, especially what restaurant choices there are, things like that. I've started working a little bit at Buy Again Alley, and we get those questions all the time, you know, by people walking in, like, where can I get lunch? Where can I get dinner? Where, you know, like that kind of thing. So I know that the retail stores are good about referring people, but I just wanted you to know all that, you know, like, and be thinking about that. And again, back to my question, like, where are you with the Bourdon insurance property?
Yeah, let me just tell you that we haven't done anything on it. It is not made it to the high priority list from our either of our 2 rounds of retreats. We haven't had the second retreat yet, but it didn't make it to necessarily the highest priority amongst the board members. And so we do need to decide what we're going to do with it, because we need to inform the state. But right now, it's until the next retreat, I couldn't really tell you where we're at on it, because there's not
Just to note, the town assessment of that property is $464,000, and the appraisal just came back at $480,000.
Well,
But that is on the select board's retreat for September 7th, discussing what's the next step, if any, would be on that property.
thank you for that update. Another thing I've been thinking about is, you know, a partnership with the Town Hall Theater as they expand their campus. You know, I know that there's plans for the diner to be configured in some way, and I don't know if there's also a possibility for doing something with them that could be the bathroom welcome center joint project, something, you know, because again, it's a good location. It's right there, you know, at the top of Merchants Row. So that's another thought,
yeah.
you know, that I had.
I suggest you talk to the Town Hall Theater right now, because they're doing architects. They're not doing specific architectural drawings, but they've hired architects, and they have a committee that meets about every other week, and they're laying out their building and what they want to do. I think the diner is going to disappear. That's my.
Yeah, I've heard that, Dan, and I have talked with Karen Duguay, because I was like, I didn't know where the BMP or the DIDC were with this public bathroom project. I know the Rotary is interested in helping, but they're not like the lead on this project. And that's the other thing. It's like, who's the lead on this welcome center? Is it the town of Middlebury? Is it Rotary? Is it, you know, like, is it Neighbors Together now that we're done with the downtown construction project? I've talked to them, you know, so I'm talking about it with all of them, and I will approach Town Hall Theater also and just see if there's something creative, you know, that we might get out of that. Jen Murray mentioned that there were 2 properties over by the train tracks, you know, like where the platform is going to be, that they're houses though, you know, and was the town interested in acquiring one of those as a potential welcome center? It's a little more removed than Merchants Row. I was like, I don't know about that, you know, like, again, we'd be taking housing stock out, which I'm not sure we would want to do, because we want to keep housing and housing. But we're just I'm just continuing to explore it, so I just wanted to let you know that I'm really interested in this project and stumping for it, you know, and updating you.
Okay, so we're gonna move on.
Okay.
So I'll update you after our next retreat as to how that discussion goes. Okay? We have a public hearing scheduled for 7:10, so we're gonna start that. If you could bring Chief Hanley in. Tonight, the board is conducting a public hearing to take testimony on minor amendments to the ordinance for the regulation of vehicle weight and height limits on town highways. The ordinance amendments were reviewed and endorsed by the town's Public Health and Safety Committee in June and were approved by the Select Board at its meeting on August 10th. As the final step before formally adopting the amended ordinances and in accordance with Chapter 127, Section 107 of the Middlebury Town Charter, we are giving members of the community an opportunity to review and comment upon them. After hearing your input, if the board ultimately votes to adopt the amended ordinances with or without further revisions that we may discuss during the hearing, each will become effective in 40 days unless a referendum petition objecting to their adoption is filed with the town clerk. Shortly, I'll turn the hearing over to Police Chief Tom Hanley, who will review the ordinance amendments. If you are recognized and would like to, if you would like to speak and are recognized, please state your full name. Those of you on Zoom, you can use your raised hand button. And with that, we'll turn it over to Chief Hanley. Tom?
Good evening. There's only two minor amendments to this ordinance. One is the deletion of Adirondack View as a town street with a weight ordinance and the addition of Bakery Lane. The rest of the streets that were on that ordinance exist as they are, and there have been no other functional changes to this ordinance with respect to fines or the process.
So, do we have anybody who would like to speak? Vision's not that great tonight. So are there any hands up there?
No hands, Brian.
Oh. Well, Chief, everybody's in agreement with you. I guess the discussion is concluded, so at 7:13, I'm going to close the hearing. And pleasure of the board.
I guess I move to adopt the ordinance for the regulation of vehicle weight and height limits on town highways as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments from the board? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those, any opposed? Okay. Next is some departmental purchase requests. First is a sole source purchase of replacement belts for the dewatering presses at the wastewater treatment facility. Has everybody read this? Our wastewater superintendent, Bob Wells, is requesting a sole source contract. It's not over the $6,000, but Kathleen has pointed out that we can authorize Bob to continue purchasing the belts from Comlene Sanderson as needed for an extended period, so he doesn't have to keep bringing it back to us, since these belts are priced, obviously, the belt he needs, and they're outlasting their normal useful life. Are there any questions on that? Okay. Pleasure of the board.
I'll move to award a contract to Comline Sanderson under the sole source purchase provision of the purchasing policy for the purchase of 4 replacement belts for the dewatering presses at the wastewater treatment facility at a total cost of $4,996.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And would the board like to extend that?
Makes sense. So I also move in accordance with the recurring purchase provisions of purchasing policy to authorize staff to direct future purchases of dewatering press belts to Comline Sanderson for a period of 5 years or until the board chooses to initiate a new bid process.
Moved and seconded. Any comments on that? Okay, seems prudent. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Chief, I'm going to let you come forward and talk about the fingerprint machine.
Okay, just a quick little history on this. Back in the late 90s, the FBI and state agencies got together and designed a system to support the National Instant Check System, which that's the system that can keep people from getting a firearm if they're not supposed to. And part of that process was to have reliable means of identification of people who were convicted of certain crimes to go into this system. That led to the development of a thing that we call a live scan. Most agencies in Vermont started getting their live scans around early 2000, 2001, 2002. We held off on that at the time because we knew we were going through a building project, and we just felt it wasn't worth it investing in that at that time. In 2006, the FBI and the state were committed to making sure every agency in the state had one of these, and we got full funding to get the one that we have now. That was in 2006. We're part of what they call the Tri-State Automatic Fingerprint Identification System. It gets into a complex thing, but it's to make instant identifications. If somebody is convicted of one of these prohibitive crimes, it goes immediately into the National Instant Check System and supports that. Vermont no longer accepts criminal records or criminal history records that aren't supported by fingerprints through this system. Now, this is moving into the digital age. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's very expensive, which is what this is. In June 1st or so of 2018, we were notified that the company that makes these was no longer going to support them and that you had to buy the updated one. The old one was run on a Windows XP platform. This is, I believe, going to be Windows 365. I'm not sure, but it's a little more advanced. Without this, we don't participate in the National Instant Check System, and none of our records goes into the that repository. Anyway, there we are. So we tried to schedule this because it is quite a large item at $19,000. We put it in our capital improvement plan for a year that we didn't have a lot of other major things going on, no servers and no other major things. So we scheduled it 3 years out for 2021, and which is why it's in that capital improvement plans now. This is not an item that can be bid. This is the only company that provides this piece of equipment that interacts with the Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont systems. So it's not like I could get Joe's live scan company to come out with a system that we could buy at a lower price. This is the only one that will interface with that system. We're kind of held hostage by it. Anyway, there you have it. I mean, the total cost is a little over $19,000, and you know that the existing system works, but it's on a Windows XP platform, and when that goes, it goes. And when those things go, they just tend to go on their own. So that's it. That's what our proposal is to waive the regular purchase prices and move along with this.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Are there any questions of Chief on this?
I don't. I guess we don't have a choice. We have to buy this from what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and I hate to say that. I hate to say that we don't have any options, but that's all we have. This is not something that we like. This is not a company that I'm particularly fond of because of the way they kind of, at the last moment, threw this at us, and every other agency in the state was in the same boat. So they've been scrambling for the last 3 years as well. So we're one of the last to actually move along on this.
What happens to the old one? Do you get anything for it, or it's just gone?
No, it's the cost of this is not the computer. The cost of this is the scanner. This goes back to the 90s when they needed a scanner of certain specifications to be able to collect this data. Also photographs when, you know, a mugshot type thing goes into the system, and they tie the fingerprints and the mugshot together, but it's the scanner that costs all the money.
Oh.
Any
So
other
there's no
questions?
resale value.
Yeah. Chief doesn't like it, but he needs it. There's no other questions. Pleasure of the board.
award a contract to Edemia under the sole source purchase provision of the purchasing policy to replace the police department's live scan system at a total cost of $19,825.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any final questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Chief, you got one other here for the driver feedback sign.
Yeah, well, this goes back to last fall when we had a lot of requests for another driver feedback sign that we could put out there on the street. At that time, I collected requests for proposals from whoever wanted to put one in, and I got 3 of them. The low bid, if you want to call it that, was All Traffic Systems at $4,056. This is the same company that makes the ones that we currently use. They're the ones that make the one out on Route 125 in East Middlebury. But I specified that this would just be a, I guess for lack of a better word, a dumb unit. It doesn't collect any data. It just sends out the radar image and tells the drivers what their speeds are. Those other ones that collect the data that we use are upwards of $7,000 or $8,000. So while this would seemingly be a fairly inexpensive item, that's the best we could do as far as the price goes.
And if I may, this is fairly mobile? We can move it around town?
Oh yeah, this is actually very light. We wanted the 15-inch sign as opposed to the 12-inch sign for better visibility, but it doesn't weigh that much, and you can just clip it onto any pole or structure that you can find to put it out there.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, that was sort of my question, but Chief, with these things here, and it seems like you made comment at one time about, or maybe I'm incorrect, what's kind of the effective time length that these things seem to work before they generally get ignored?
That all depends on where they're going to go. If you're in an area with transit traffic, such as the one in East Middlebury, that could stay there forever and have some effect. If you go and put it on Butt-Off Acres, people will get tired of looking at it after a week or two. And then it just becomes like any other sign, that they just ignore it. Especially if they realize that they're going too fast, they're not going to get a ticket, it's just a sign. And so we like to move those around and go maybe no more than 2 weeks. We go one way 1 week, one way the next week.
Okay, thanks.
There's also the issue of battery life with these things. So it's how long can we put it out there before it needs to be charged?
Okay, thanks.
Pleasure of the board.
I'll move to award to low bidder All Traffic Solutions for the purchase of a radar driver feedback sign and power kit at a total cost of $4,056.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hopefully, some of these things we're doing will help with our traffic calming efforts.
Well, yeah, I hope so. That's the intent.
Yeah. And we had it, since the construction is done, is the amount of people going through Butt-Off Acres, bypassing the Route 7 Court Street corridor dropped? Has anybody heard anything?
We plan on doing another traffic survey maybe in a month, once things have completely settled down, and we'll get some numbers then.
Okay,
Plus,
Yeah.
it'd be good to have school start, I think,
yeah,
to get those numbers with school in session.
yes.
I don't know if you noticed that on Rogers Road, we had the slow down for Safer Towns signs through there over the summer. There are a whole bunch of them. And it was just a really effective reminder and low cost, didn't cost anything.
Right,
To do that. And those signs can be circulated to other streets. And we have told residents, I'm only saying this so that it's on public record too, in case citizens want to make a request of Safe Routes Middlebury for those signs to be placed. It's like the radar device that when you circulate it to different locations, it has impact. So it could go 2 weeks on Rogers Road, it could go to South Street, it could go to High Street, it could go to Halliday Road, it could go to any of the other residents residential neighborhoods where
Yeah.
people would like to see that messaging. So I'm just letting you know that.
Thank you. It's actually on our, this traffic calming is something that the select board is interested in based upon the number of comments we had, and knowing that you have those resources is helpful too. So next is approval of a loan agreement for a police cruiser. The board is asked to approve a resolution to borrow $40,000 from National Bank of Middlebury for the purchase of a 2020 Ford Explorer for use by the police department, as approved by Middlebury voters at the March 2nd, 2021 annual town meeting. And also presented for our board approval is a municipal capital equipment note payable to National Bank, outlining the loan interest rate at 1.99% in a term of 4 years. Are there any questions about this?
I thought we had money in the budget for this when we approved that. I thought this was a capital improvement budget and we're
This
borrowing.
is for the equipment fund. We're borrowing one final year for the police cruisers.
What is that?
FY '22, I think we're cash.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So if it's a 2020, does that mean it's already product that's available as opposed to trying to get a 2021?
Stuff
We already
got.
have this.
We're just replenishing
Okay,
money into our coffers.
okay, I see what you're doing. Okay, right, okay.
Okay, oh, I understand.
All right. Straightforward enough?
Any other questions? Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve the resolution and municipal capital equipment note for the loan from National Bank of Middlebury in the amount of $40,000 to fund the purchase of a 2020 Ford Explorer for the police department.
Second. Moved and seconded. Again, any questions?
Where, we make payments monthly, quarterly, yearly, or is this just
Yearly.
yearly? What do they come out, where do they come out of?
We budget for them in the equipment fund.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All good questions, educating ourselves here.
Mhm.
Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Heather, you're muted. I saw your mouth move.
Okay. Thank you. Next is, kind of got, Chief got the hook there.
I like that little theory.
Is Dan in attendees?
So there you go. No twinkly fairies down, Dan, on the entry.
Dan was watching the TV having dinner. Said, oh, they're ahead of schedule by 5 minutes.
Jeopardy.
Eh,
All right. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hear you. We haven't got your video yet, but we've got you if you want to get started, Dan.
Okay. Every time I come on, there's a thing I have to do a reboot. So anyway, it may come on. All right. So anyway, first thing is request to approve a bid for painting at the library. Dana had a really tough time trying to get people to respond to bids. So finally got a quote from Stearns Paint and Papering. They're out of Rutland. They did they did some painting for her before. There we go. This one is for $4,200. This is for the north side of the building. That's between a little courtyard, grass courtyard between library building and the theater. So she's been satisfied with her work before. So this is money's in her budget to do it. So requesting you to approve Stearns Paint and Papering for $4,200 to get that work underway.
Questions of Dan?
To be able to get a good contractor now, it's like, let's go.
Pleasure of the board.
I move to award a contract to Stearns Paint and Papering of Rutland to paint the remaining library windows on the 1988 edition of the Hillsdale Library at a total cost of $4,200.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Heather, okay. Opposed? Okay. Next,
right.
Dan.
Thank you. Yep, next item is request approval of an engineering agreement for our paving projects. This is for inspection services, in other words, to watch over the work, that make sure it's being done properly. This proposal is from Otter Creek Engineering. Just a reminder, the project is paving on Rogers Road, a portion of Monroe Street, Dwyer Circle, Fairview Circle, and Thomas Street. So it's a fair amount of work. Pike is the contractor. That bid was approved weeks and weeks ago. So this is for their inspection services for the work expected to start sometime after Labor Day. I don't have a finite schedule yet. So their services include $1,550 for inspection services. In other words, that's boots on the ground. And then $2,500 for independent testing. That's compaction testing and mixed design testing of the asphalt. So total on that is $18,000. This is in our budget. And so I'm requesting the board approve Otter Creek Engineering's proposal for $18,000.
Any questions?
No, but as before, Brian, because I utilize Otter Creek Engineering for a number of projects, I will abstain for building.
Okay.
I'll move to award a contract to Otter Creek Engineering for inspection services for the upcoming paving projects on Rogers Road, Foster Circle, Fairview Circle, Monroe Street, Dwyer Circle, and Thomas Street at a total cost of $18,000.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Or an abstention. Okay, Dan?
Okay. Next item is to consider whether the town should participate in a new state program for stormwater system design funding for businesses, private businesses, of course, on the 3-acre plus general permit. So just a short review for the public. The state is going to require parcels that have 3 or more acres of impervious pavement, soils, whatever. And so it's one thing to legislate it. It's legislated. It's another thing to pay for it. So with the chance for federal funds coming to the states, they kind of are in the midst of, and I say it, in the midst of creating this program where the town would have to be a sponsor for these businesses that have 3+ acres of impervious soils. And so the state cannot give money to or award loans or grants to private entities, but they can do it through legislature, through the CWSRF program. So basically what they're doing is they're taking the Clean Water State Revolving Fund program and using that as a means to help private entities address their stormwater issues. And like I said, they can pass the funds through the town to these businesses. So one of the things that will have to happen is that the businesses will have to, basically sign on and let us know that they're interested, and then we would proceed with the, the application and so on and so forth that the state is creating. That deadline for interested parties is December 1st of this year. So then the landowners would have to go through design, I should say an evaluation of whether they have enough room even to do some form of stormwater treatment. And then over a period of the next, 4 to 5 years, the construction would have to be done. The fines for not going with the program or not doing stormwater treatment is I think it's $35,000 an acre, which is pretty steep. Now, there may be some properties that as they go through an evaluation, there cannot be a solution, then that's all fine, but you have to go through the process and determine whether there is a viable solution. So what does that mean for us? Let me back step a little bit. In that handout, if that's up there, Kathleen, I'm not sure, but the stormwater general permit, there's a list on a few pages into it where it says identified project and landowners. There's 18 entities that could participate in the project or in the program. Variety of acreage ranges from 4 to 5 to as high as 20, 24. Middlebury College actually has a 96-acre parcel. You'll see on that there are a couple school districts. Addison Central has 2 pieces, and I thought there was another, Middlebury Union Middle School. They won't be part of this initial group because they have there's another means for funding the school stormwater issues. So you take those out. There's 18 here that could participate. So the other part of the reality, the page before that shows affected properties, about 700 properties or projects statewide, 8,000 landowners identified. And I think there's about $2.5 to $3 million available. It's a first come, first serve. So there is some, urgency to get signed on with this. But if you do the math with 700 projects and divide that into 2.5 or 3 million, that comes out to less than $4,000 available per project. And I got to tell you, the cost of this is way beyond 2.5 to 3 million. I'm going to throw a roll of dice. I'm going to say 10 to 20 million statewide. So I think obviously the state thinks that they're going to find some additional funds from some of the federal government's funding of capital improvements. And I guess we're going to wait and see. And like I said, this is going to be a 4 to 5 year program. And I think that's why they're saying they can manage this. So that's the short version. Impact on staff, yeah, there is going to be. It's hard to say what that's going to mean, but just in the last couple of days, I've thought about, there may be more than one engineering firm. There's going to probably have to be attorneys looking at agreements, understanding that once these private entities get involved, that they actually are involved. So there's some protection from the town. There's a lot of things that are unanswered, and this is quite honestly a work in progress. I haven't found anything on the state CWSRF website about it. As I said, they're creating this. I got to applaud them for trying to, go through the CWSRF to make this happen. It's an unfunded mandate, and it puts a lot of burden on the businesses. And this is really the only way that, that they can get some help is through this process. But it will affect, our time to make it happen. So there you go, folks. Up to you.
Heather. You're muted, Heather.
So that whole space bar key, the space thing does not work on my computer. Sorry about that. Dan, did you get any more information on, I think Brent and what was the other guy's name? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, Otter Creek Engineering had said there might be some funds available for administering the program, but it was pretty sketchy on, what it could be used for and if it would be really available. Were you able to get any more information from them on that?
No, I haven't. The rumor was, 1 to 2%, but that's not a lot. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I think 1 or 2% is pretty low.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. I wanted to know from Kathleen, do you feel like the staff is ready to take on a project like this at this time?
I think we have a choice.
Yeah. What is it?
We don't have a choice. You can't let this, you just can't let this go.
I hear that, but I also want to hear from Kathleen. What can you handle?
Well, not knowing what the requirements are, it's hard to respond. And it will be a burden, and
They don't know how much of a burden it will be.
it will be if you think we're going to deal with 18 businesses. We're going to have to monitor those expenditures. We're going to have agreements with each of them. We're going to have a couple of relationships with a couple of engineering firms. So it's going to be a big project.
We've talked about charging for the service before. Is it possible under this to charge for our services, Dan?
Well, that's what Dan's saying, that he's thinking at the most there's going to be an allowance of maybe 2% of the project cost. And often with these federal programs, you'll have to keep track of the hours. So it's a whole another burden on staff to keep track of, I called this property owner.
Yeah. I thought the one that the couple percent, 2 to 3% was how much we could keep out of that pot. But I didn't know if we were allowed to also charge a handling fee for doing the paperwork to the businesses.
But even on
just to be clear here, I have to abstain from this because I am one of the businesses. Basically, most of us businesses down in the early businesses down in our business park, in the industrial park, are all mostly on this list.
But even after charging whatever you want to charge, you still have staff time.
Yeah.
That's not going to go away with taking the money, right? It still requires a lot of stuff.
And money doesn't create more hours for the
Exactly,
staff.
unless you hire somebody this way.
Unless we hire someone.
So
Which I don't,
I feel sketchy too.
What's that?
I feel sketchy about this without knowing how much time it's going to take.
well, we won't know unless we move forward at this juncture, right?
I mean, we've got to start to prove it. I think it's important. It's an important project and it's going to have to be done. And this is one way of helping our businesses out to do it. I could guess we could terminate it later, but I don't think this is appropriate to terminate it before we ever start to take a look at it. So we've got to at least make an application for it.
I hear that, but the staff time part really worries me.
I agree, it worries me too, but this is 18 businesses that pay a gazillion dollars in taxes and they're taxpayers. And this is a real important, and it's a scary alternative. I'm sure Brian and other people are worried about being able to fund this, and at least this helps with the design process.
Yeah. Burnout is more so my concern for the staff.
What's the total cost from this?
We don't know.
This is, I think Dan talked about it. This is basically an unfunded mandate from, as part of the clean water efforts being accomplished it by the A&R.
So just to be clear, I'm totally supportive of doing this. But I do want the board to consider that when I come to you for more help.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I think we need to
Loud-
talk about
loud
more
and
help.
clearly heard. And we know that you'll let us know what you need.
Can we find an intern of some sorts to help out with these kind of things? Paid intern of some sorts?
Yeah, so Dan was working on a CWSRF project with an engineering firm and a project management that had not worked with that program before, and it's very regulated, and there are a lot of guidelines, and it was a lot more work for Dan to shepherd the whole process through. So getting an intern, I'm willing to try anything, but not to put more burden on Dan.
Can we hire an engineering firm to handle this project for the town?
I think those are all things we have to explore. There's always going to be accounting staff time. There's going to be review of the agreements.
Administering the funds.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is anything we can, we're going to have to find out what the state requirements are. We can't troubleshoot it right now. Let's go forward with applying for the program and see what we learn.
If I can add,
Go ahead. Good, Dan.
yeah, if I can add to what Kathleen said, I think the intent of this, from the state's perspective, is that the private entities would contract with an engineering firm, well, obviously one they're comfortable with or already have worked with before. So, you know, there may be 1, 2, maybe 3 firms involved here. And once that, you know, the agreements would be between the entity and the engineering firm. And then we would, in essence, I think, would, you know, collect those and put those together in this application. And so I don't think we would be managing the agreements between the engineering firm and the entities. That's their thing, but we would be trying to keep everybody on task that they've, you know, they're gonna, you know, sign on, they get the paperwork to us and so on and so forth. So it's totally unknown how much this is gonna, how much it's gonna be. And, you know, I think, as I said, the state is in the process of creating it. So we'll see. But it's always, like I said, it always takes more time than you, like way more time than you think for these things. They just, it's the nature of the beast.
And we already think it's going to take some time.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's the right thing to do. I echo what Kathleen and Dan said. It's, how do you not say no? You can't, you know, so.
I'll move.
Had asked me what the timeline is, and I said it's first come, first serve.
Go ahead, Heather.
I'll move to authorize staff to initiate an application with the state for participation in the 3-acre stormwater program as a municipal sponsor.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm going to abstain. Okay. Well, I guess that, Dan, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Last item?
Yep. Jen's up next.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
And thank Katie Road for, you don't know how many times I turn by Fossil Motors thinking it's open and
Oh, so like every day I drive by really slowly and hope
just quick before Chris pulls you off there, that was because the provider of the culvert didn't put it together like they were supposed to, or what was the deal with why the extended length?
The rain in July postponed the timing with Champlain Construction, and the contractor who was going to put the culvert together, they had other commitments too. So in other words, they got postponed enough where they said, we can't be here for another 2 weeks because they have their commitments. So that's why we just worked it out that Champlain would put it together, and then we would just not have the expense to the concrete or to the culvert supplier. The benefit to this really is that now a local contractor knows pretty well how these things go together. So the next time we go to do this, there'll be a little more confidence for local folks to do it. So that part was a good thing. And so we're not dependent on these suppliers to provide the labor, especially with, COVID and trying to move people around the, Eastern Seaboard to do this. So that was a delay.
Well, it looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks good. I did drive it very slowly. It's a very good looking culvert.
You lost.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
Hey, Chris? It's kind of like Bewitched or...
Yeah. Does sound like that.
Nah.
Good evening.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this just a little bit is to let you know that I was planting a seed with the infrastructure committee, and I think the seed is starting to take. I wanted to talk to them about townwide transportation plans and just how that turns out to be a helpful tool in communities. A lot of times, it is a plan just on the order of a comp plan that just looks at the whole town road network and tries to create some maps and tables that start to prioritize some projects. And then you'd probably have room in the scope to take a couple projects and look at them a little bit further and try to get some concepts for them. And I think the reason why this might be helpful for the town is, well, first of all, there's a municipal planning grant coming up in the fall. So I'm kind of thinking that maybe we want to eye that grant opportunity for this kind of plan. But I mean, the reason that they're handy is it helps you have a list of projects that you can tap when grant opportunities come along, and it helps you prepare for capital planning in the same way because you've got maps showing potential connections and a table sort of beginning to prioritize some projects. And it helps us handle requests from the public because we've certainly seen an uptick in bike ped requests in particular after COVID here. And it would just be nice to have a process where we take all that input on all the places where people think we need more sidewalks and traffic calming and things like that, and just put it into a big comprehensive document so that they're heard. And then the good part is you've got a traffic engineer working with you who can take that citizen input and my input and Dan's input and combine that with some user input, and then compare that against the available traffic data and maybe collect some more traffic data. So, I mean, long story short, they look at trips, they look at level of service, try to look at crash data, try to figure out where the efficiency problems and the safety problems are occurring on the town-wide road network. And then my favorite part is that they often work with me or the Planning Commission to ask us, where do we see land use occurring in the future, to try to make some projections of where that development will be occurring and stressing out in certain intersections or roads. So it's a nice tool to have to refer to. It becomes sort of a reference document that you update over time and something you'd add to your tool belt.
Questions or comments for Jen on that? And what do you're thinking we would be applying for this grant on this next round?
Yeah, there's a municipal planning grant coming up probably September, and they range up to $22,000, and I think you could do a transportation plan for that.
Okay.
Is there a match, Jen, or is it straight grant?
Yeah, it's usually a $2,000 match on a $22,000 total project cost.
Any other questions, comments?
I think this is great.
Yeah.
Your support, that's what you're here for.
Well, I don't need any action tonight, just planting a seed. You'll see me again in September, hopefully with the same idea and not a different one.
Your team is here trying to make sure that we're supporting you, Jen, so that's good.
Okay, good. Super.
Hey, I don't see any issues with getting our support on signing to support that grant. I may be making an assumption here, but it just seems to make sense to me.
Yeah.
We have had a lot of discussions for users to comment on the need for sidewalks and various things, and trying to put that into some format that prioritizes it just would really, and shows why the rationale for the prioritization would be great.
I just want to add that it goes beyond
Come over here.
sidewalks and bike lanes to parking, like priorities. And I'm thinking of EV vehicles, the whole spectrum of EV vehicles, and also bike parking, like parklets. So it's an opportunity to look at your downtown parking and plan accordingly too. So, and EV charging stations and coupling that with parklet kind of parking. So I'm thinking about that as well.
Yeah, I don't want to create that expectation because I don't see that being part of this scope of work. Your downtown master plan recommends a parking management strategy. That would be a whole separate public process. And if you try to tackle the parking question with this scope of work, you'd be well over 22,000. This is to look at the road network inefficiencies and safety problems and really think about these infrastructure projects and get an engineer's opinion on some of that and the user input as well.
Well, it'd be a heck of a start. It's a lot more than what we've got right now. Okay, and then we have is there anything else on that particular topic? So then we have the Transportation Advisory Committee grant application for Boardman Street intersection safety improvements, Jen.
Yep, so this is a planning project on a different scale, whereas the last thing I talked about would be a comprehensive plan for the whole townwide network. This would be a scoping study for a specific intersection. So the Regional Planning Commission has TAC grants that come up every year. And you see in your agenda notes that I think it's $40,000, probably split 4 ways. We don't know for sure until we see how many applicants are interested. But for that amount, I thought we could do some study of the Boardman Street intersection. So that's something that comes up a lot in Planning Commission meetings. And maybe it's because Todd Desibray is on the Planning Commission and running so many trucks on Boardman Street all the time. There's anyone who's come down Boardman Street knows it's pretty difficult turning out onto Route 7. Also with the Public Works Garage potentially going in that location, and with some recent planning work that we've been doing, talking with the college about whether a back portion of the Sabrin property, not visible from Route 7, but adjacent to the Stonegate subdivision, could be a potential location for some affordable housing. It just seems like it would behoove us to look ahead at that intersection and figure out like what the trips are, what the turns are, how close we are to tripping the warrant with V-Trans that might require the construction of a turn lane, or if we should be adding a turn lane on our town road, Boardman Street, to facilitate turning out onto Route 7. Just trying to think ahead there. And hopefully at the end, if we had a concept plan, we could show a sidewalk on Boardman Street too. And that would cue funders, that we go to for implementation funds, that we've looked ahead and kind of planned this out in advance.
Questions on that?
Good vision.
This would appear to be necessary to bring it to the next level with the select board, because this was on that list that you had thrown out, but I don't think the select board had enough data to really prioritize this. I think this is kind of the next step.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
I really appreciate your ability to fit all the pieces together. make decisions without information, and I'm impressed with your ability to make those connections and then find a little money, which is nice too.
Thanks.
And our match on this would be,
There's no match. Yeah, no match.
so then this is a no lose.
Yeah, it was great.
Pleasure of the board.
So,
Oh.
you wanna go ahead?
Oh, okay. I move to approve the submission of a grant application to Regional Planning's Transportation Advisory Committee seeking $15,000 in funding to perform a scoping study for improvements to the Boardman Street Route 7 intersection.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
I just want to say, I also agree. So grateful for you as you break it down for us. And
Thanks, Esther.
Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, Jen, I would say you're getting quite a few projects on your plate here when we talk about,
Staff time.
it's nice to know. I think we're going to want to know what you got on your plate before we go to our next retreat, because we may be throwing, we just want to know where you're at.
Right.
You're going to that next retreat with us, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I welcome your input as I think about like trying to triage the future. You know, what's the most important thing about our future to try to make sure we're covered on. Yep.
Okay. Well, super. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Kathleen on professional services agreement.
As I mentioned earlier, I'll be looking for your support to look at our staffing and find some solutions going forward. The proposal before you with Cope and Associates really has two parts. One, as Nick pointed out, when you were doing my review this year, we were doing a little reorganization in the town manager's office, that we need a plan if something happens to me or if I leave. So expanded that to include all of our department heads, working with them to develop contingency plans if any of them wins the lottery or finds some other compelling reason to leave us. So that's one part of it. And the other part is to begin to think about a long-term vacancy we've had in the accounting office. We just haven't been able to fill that and retain someone there. And if we need somehow to reconfigure that and enhance it some way, either reduce the job description, look at the pay and benefits for that. So we're going to do that. And we're also going to be looking at the long-term vision for the public works planning director and how we might go forward with succession planning there.
I think this is critical.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the board support this. We've got a lot of moving pieces, and you've already recognized that our staff's plates are getting full, but we've got some senior staff people who are in the process or in the near future going to be transitioning, and we need a plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, are there any questions on what Kathleen is proposing?
I don't just think we need this, I know we need this, and the truth is, it actually looks like a pretty good value for money. Look at the
I've
price.
recently worked on, with Paula on a smaller project, and amazing value
She's very good.
with the experience and knowledge she has.
Yeah, no, I think that's phenomenal value for money. I mean, we'd be lunatics not to go for this.
Well, and Paula's worked with us before too,
Right.
so that's value there a little.
Yeah, no, she knows us.
Have we already budgeted for this?
We have money, we have some savings from the assistant town manager position being vacant.
We didn't budget, but money is available because of what we have to plan for.
So, like Brian said, it's critical and I fully support it. And I also would like to move to approve an engagement with Cope and Associates for management, staff planning, consulting services at a total cost of $10,200.
I second. Throw it out there.
Moved
There
and
you go.
seconded. Are there any comments?
I just had one other question. Do you feel like this is gonna cover the major critical pieces, or are there other big pieces we should be thinking about?
There may be more pieces
Okay,
to think about.
okay.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, thank you. Next is a signature authorization release related to the resolution of a recent legal matter. The board's approval is being requested to authorize town manager Kathleen Ramsey to sign a release acknowledging a payment of $36,974.55 by Acadia Insurance Company to cover the litigation expense related to Roxana Emelo versus Breadloaf Corporation, the Bishop Excavating LLC in the town of Middlebury. The release further acknowledges that the town will take no further action against Breadloaf Corporation or Acadia Insurance Company in regard to this matter. Are there any questions on this? Kathleen has updated us in the past on this case in executive session. This is to finalize this case.
I move to authorize town manager Kathleen Ramsey to sign release requested by Acadia Insurance Company.
Second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed? Okay,
Kathleen, is the door over here open? Somebody was looking in the window. I think it's Maddie. She just walked that way. Just somebody I know. I didn't know if she was trying to come in, because I think is this the only door open or are the other doors open?
Should we just back?
This door is open?
Keep on walking.
Okay. She was staring through the door for a while, so I thought maybe she was trying to come in, but
wondered
okay.
what was going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna skip forward, this, budget item 13, we postponed to the 14th, so 14, and it's a brief review of the developmental timeline for the 23 FY operating capital budgets by Kathleen.
So, yeah, we're looking at the fall, getting back to it on the budget. So department heads are in the process of developing their capital budget requests. They will be coming before the infrastructure committee in October. I have to do share screen for those folks at home. And then they'll be coming to the select board in November. Usually the last meeting in November, the select board takes a look at that. That is Tuesday, November 23rd. That's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So at times the board has shifted either earlier. I don't know if there's
It has to be earlier, I think.
if you wanted to go earlier in the month for that second meeting in November. And likewise, you generally do some shifting in December for your meetings, particularly the one in between Christmas and New Year's. Occasionally, if it's not on Christmas week, we have met that week in between Christmas and New Year's. I don't think this is anything we have to decide right now, but if you want to think about the schedule for that. And then the operating budget will be coming to you in December, and department heads will be working on their to make sure it stopped this year. We'll be working on their budgets in October. Ready for presentation in December.
Time just flies. Our kids are already back at school. Is it tomorrow they start? Yeah.
Yes, tomorrow. I'm a sub already.
Oh,
wow.
I bet you could be a sub every day if you wanted to.
Isn't that unbelievable? Okay, are there any questions on the schedule for Kathleen? Okay, next is just reviewing our draft agenda for the upcoming retreat. We have picked off what, remember after the last retreat, once we got through and we had limited time towards the end, we asked everybody to prioritize, and then taking those priorities forward, we have created the next draft agenda. And the EDI discussion was the top priority out of that. Followed by solving the downtown parking and housing development stuff. And so really critical to have Jen a part of that discussion, which is why we moved it, because that's our priority discussion, and Jen wasn't able to make it as a rationale why we slid the meeting. Next was to go through with Dan on what are some of the large infrastructure projects, and certainly trying to understand as we start to look at what we're going to do with the money, that the ARPA funds that really are designed for infrastructure use. So bringing us up to speed on that. And then I've got to get back to, in fact, I've got an email in my mailbox from yesterday. The state is hounding me for an answer on the board-on property. So we need to have that discussion before it needs to be a board answer. And so I've been asking for some extra time on that. And then discuss if we have more after this we want to do in a retreat format. I think the retreat format has been productive for us.
I've really appreciated it.
I really like the retreat format, but I'm disappointed in the change of schedule because I scheduled a wilderness trip around the 30th of August and to come out of the woods on the 13th of September, so I could be at the 14th of September select board meeting, and I'll be in the wilderness. So I'm just disappointed at the last minute because I did make this trip around select board meetings and specifically this.
Well, we could push it.
When will you be done? When will you be out?
Well, there's I'm leaving
another one of those 28-day ones.
No, this is only a driving to the boundary waters and going in. I have a reservation to go in the boundary waters on the 6th, and I come out on the 13th, and I plan to run it. Now, the caveat to that is the boundary waters a week ago just closed for fires and drought. So, but I'm going to go if they open up, and I'm just counting on them opening up. So,
Does the town use like a Google Calendar? Like
a shared calendar?
Yeah, could we create a board calendar where we can put those things on there just amongst ourselves?
Well, we knew these dates. I knew these dates. I know the select board dates, and I've done, and we had the 30th of August being.
Oh, no, I meant if it was helpful for town staff to know when we plan to be out of time. I know Nick is out of town a lot.
Well, the good part about it is we've got Zoom.
Did you?
Yeah,
respond?
Dan mentioned it, but it was a no-go on the 30th.
Yeah.
So we could, if you wanted to do it before the meeting on the 14th, or
Let me just look and see.
on the 15th.
14th September.
That would be a long time commitment for you.
So it'd have to be 5 on the 14th.
It has to be 5, if you want 2 hours.
I can make that work.
I will probably Zoom in and that's okay.
On the 14th?
Yeah.
But you're here for the select board meeting or no?
No, we have Zoom capability. I come out of the wilderness on the 13th and I do my prep and that day, and I was gonna Zoom in.
Okay.
I can Zoom into the planning.
There's no reason why we can't do that, yeah.
It'll work for me if we want to move it.
Oh,
Is Jen available?
Let's
Yeah, we need to see
take
if
a
Jen
look at it.
can make it.
Sorry, Heather, have you been listening to our discussion on the retreat? How does that affect you, moving it to the 14th, before our board meeting?
It makes for a little bit of a long day, but it's doable.
Okay,
What is the agenda looking like for the 14th as far as the length of the meeting?
Good question.
I did a draft earlier today, and it's not looking too bad at this point, but that's usually the way it goes.
So I was going to ask if we kept it on the 7th, if we could adjust the time from like 5 to 7 rather than 5:30 to 7:30. But if we're considering a different day, then that doesn't matter.
Let's move to the 14th. You can make it work. I would rather have some participation.
Okay, I'll tell you what, it sounds like the board can all make that 14th. Well, this is a critical enough thing to try to get everybody there.
I mean, I was personally evaluating whether it was worth having Dan there or not. I guess
So was I, actually.
I'm not gonna let him get away with this one, so you're darn right.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Now the pressure's on me to make sure I'm here. And I will be.
We'll see if we can patch into the park.
Are you away that day too?
No, I'll be there, but patch you.
Okay, put it in your calendars, everybody, the 14th, from 5 to 7 is our retreat.
That's unusual.
Okay, are there any other comments
Thank you.
about that draft agenda? Are we okay with that draft agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good, actually.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, so I'll move on to check warrants. Nick?
Let's see. I moved to approve a whole lot of money for expenditures instead.
Whoa.
It was, I looked at them yesterday, they seemed to be pretty normal, and then we ended up getting today, Jackie brought along that went for the tax payments to the schools, which is as quoted a whopping $5,268,050.61. So that definitely elevates the numbers. So with that in mind, I move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $5,893,291.91, consisting of $5,772,941.60 for accounts payable and $120,350.31 for payroll for the period of August 11, 2021 through August 24, 2021.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There's nobody who wants to hold off on the school fund check. Board member concerns. Rod?
Just a comment, I want to welcome students, school starting tomorrow. They technically actually started today. There was orientation at the high school and the middle school. And just for your information, when they let out the school, there was a traffic backup to G-Store Motor from Mary Hogan. It was completely stopped for a while. A lot of people were complaining. I still think, I brought this up before, I still think the signal timing is the issue at the high school. we should have it looked at, I think. This is going to be an ongoing problem if we don't fix it.
Okay.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything, surprisingly.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks for changing the date, and I apologize for not being at the celebration this weekend. I was with my son in Virginia Beach, but I hope it went well. I know it was hot.
It was so hot. Oh, my God.
I wasn't here either.
Good attendance.
It was very well attended for that hot of a day. I heard of a number of people who didn't come because it was too hot for them to stand out in that weather. Still, it was, I don't know how many people were there, but it was a good crowd. It was
I'd
nice.
say
It was-
100, do you think?
I was thinking 100. You know, somebody asked me, I said, I don't know, about 100.
We had probably 10 times that many, didn't we, last year?
Oh, that was
pretty exciting.
That was pretty exciting. I mean, we got through I was getting through the big project and it was during shutdown, so.
And there was a train. I mean,
Yeah. There was a
Train draw.
And every kid wanted to see that train.
Right.
Like every adult one.
They weren't there for us, that's for sure.
Yes, sir.
No words, but it's good to see everybody.
Same. Nick?
Well, I'd say just, we want to make some mention about the bridge opening and the dedication of Lazarus Park, and fine job that our master of ceremonies here did a good job. Appreciation to Governor Phil Scott for coming, and Transportation Secretary Joe Flynn, and Senator Dick Mazza of the Senate Transportation was there, and Representative Diane Lamphere of the House Transportation Committee were there. We appreciate that, as well as Addison County Senator Chris Bray and Representative Amy Sheldon, who all came to witness and be part of this monumental time in the history of the town. And it's a fantastic project to see it move forward. And I think there's a lot of enthusiasm, and it's going to continue forward, and we're going to see a lot of good things radiate from this work. So nice job.
Good. Yeah, I agree. Heather?
Is Laura still there?
Yes.
Laura, just wondered if the commission, the homeless commission you're running is keeping minutes for their meeting. I know they're not necessarily a town board or group, but it would be great if your summary could come in an email, or if there's minutes from the group that could get added to the packet. While I appreciate your updates and you being here and letting us know what's going on, it would be great if we could get that information in the packet as well. So I just wanted to say that. And then Kathleen, just quickly, can you make sure Dan puts on the agenda for the infrastructure committee next, what month are we? September, sorry, to talk about the capital budget and schedule and meetings. So we get that, so we get a plan for that and on everybody's calendar for the next few months, please. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Heather.
So Heather, just following up on the homeless task force meeting minutes, I do receive those and I put them in the correspondence right now.
Oh.
That's part of the packet if you'd like me to.
I'm sorry, I missed them. If I read over, I missed that they were in there. I was looking for them kind of like in the main section, but now that I know where they are, that's fine.
Do you want the announcement of the upcoming meeting to go out in your Friday communication? It's an ad hoc committee. It's not an official committee of it came out of the Public Health and Safety Committee, but it's really an ad hoc committee. So I wasn't sure how to communicate when the committee meets to the public. It's in the notes, so you can see at the end of the notes when the next meeting is going to be. And there are regular minutes, as Kathleen said, that I've shared with her to share with you.
Okay.
Brian, excuse me, can I interrupt one more? It just reminds me, Kathleen, if you would ask whoever doing minutes for the Energy Committee, I noticed when I read their minutes, they put at the end when they ended the meeting by, but they didn't include in the beginning kind of when they called the meeting to order. And not that it's a huge deal. I was just curious how long their meetings were running. So it would be helpful if they put an end date in the beginning to put a beginning date in the beginning. Thank you.
I do have just a couple things. First is the college has got beyond focused strictly on COVID and running an educational institution in a COVID environment, and now they're back to being able to think a little larger. And they have shared with us that